Greeting everybody who joins us in Ukrainian Media Center Ukrinform. We continue operations today. My name is Olga Atmanova. Today is day 852 of the full-scale invasion of our homeland by Russian aggressor, and now we will be talking about what's going on in Luhansk region. Joining us online is Artem Lysohor, military governor of Luhansk region. Good afternoon, Mr. Artem. Good afternoon. Mr. Artem, lately there were a lot of talks and publications about what's going on in Luhansk region. I mean, the territory under Ukrainian control. So what is the territory, so what is the situation for the time being? Let's start with this. Well, the situation is pretty tense. The enemy continues shelling at the occupied settlements because they are close to the forward edge of the battle area. Some of them are really situated right in the forward edge. There is damage inflicted by MLRS, scanner, artillery, sometimes guided aviation bombs. We continue working with our communities over there, I mean our police and the representatives of the military administration, but some of the people are still not ready to leave the area. After the latest shellings, 4 people agreed. Unfortunately, one woman has perished. Her mother was evacuated. We were able to accommodate her in our temporary facilities, but the situation is really difficult because the enemy keeps inflicting strikes on our police, our military administration, those representatives who move along the area, and they try to inflict damage on our armed forces. It's clear that Belogorivka, which is the epicenter of battle operations, currently ceased to exist. It's almost completely destroyed, but where the people are still staying, the situation is really tense. Well, according to your calculations, what is the number of civilians staying there? Well, as of this morning, it's 48 people. 3 of them were about to leave to check their health condition and to process their pensions. We tried to convince them not to come back to stay at the temporary facilities, but let's see what happens. Well, talking about the temporarily occupied territory, what's known about what's going on over there? Well, basically the situation in the temporarily occupied territories is unchanged. Russian invaders continue producing their rules, imposing their rules at the level of legislation of aggressor. They try to demonstrate to the people that they try to add those territories so that so-called Russian legislation works there, but there are no significant changes. The Russians sent teachers and doctors from the depth of Russia to the temporarily occupied territories to provide education and medical services. But the question is, if those specialists were not fit at home, we can understand what's their level. And if the matter is the lack of medical personnel, it becomes clear what is their qualification. And there is basically no equipment to work with because all of our equipment, all of our modern cutting-edge equipment was pillaged by the Russians and transported to either to Luhansk and Donetsk or to Russian Federation. This is why we basically can understand what is the level of medical services being provided to the people in those areas. At the distance of 100 kilometers to the forward edge of the battle area, there are huge problems with the medicines, with the medical services. I mean, any medical examination for the people who have any chronic diseases, any chronic sicknesses, given the number of killed and wounded occupiers, the hospitals are filled with them. So people have to use their connections to pull the strings to just get examined by a doctor. A lot of people suffer from the lack of medicines. And talking about the medicines, the issues promoted by the news promoted by the Russian Telegram channels, people call those medicines like lime because they don't work, they are tasteless. Well, Mr. Artem, we hear a lot of news about Ukrainian armed forces strikes on the installations and facilities of the armed forces of Russian Federation in temporarily occupied territories. So are those strikes successful? Does the local population help the Ukrainian armed forces with intelligence? Well, you know, our armed forces have really stepped up. They inflict damage on those military installations. They get information about, for example, about the position of large numbers of life force or the places of storage of unmanned aerial vehicles, and we can see there are precise strikes inflicted on those areas or those facilities, which yield pretty good results, which are reported by our main Directorate of Intelligence and the General Staff. We've promised the enemy from the very beginning that every single piece of our land, every single life that was destroyed, they will have to bear responsibility for that. And those are the precise strikes that destroy the enemy in their lair, that they try to transform our occupied territory into. We see that the enemy tries to transform those areas into a buffer zone, but they get serious response from our guys, and thus they try to create this buffer zone everywhere where their troops are located. And I think that those strikes are quite legit, and the number of them will be growing. And talking about the resistance movement, how active is that and how efficient is their work? Well, you know, it's more of a question to the military. The resistance works, we see the results of their work, we get a lot of news, I get a lot of notifications from the people. We cannot disclose the sources, but we keep getting the news 24/7. Our special services keep working. Everything we see, everything we hear, we hand over the information to the armed forces and they respond effectively. We have questions on the floor. Volunteer Ukrinform. There were news that there are about 6,000 children studying in the schools of Ukraine from the temporarily occupied territories of Luhansk region. What is the situation for the time being? Well, some of the children, 92 children got medals while graduating from schools. Basically, less children are entering school. We understand it. More people are evacuating. Some of the people try to switch their children to offline mode of education. But again, those schools that we were able to relocate, they work and they provide online education services not only for the children who stay in Ukraine, but even to those who stay abroad. 4,000 of them, and a part of the children are also studying in temporarily occupied territories. It's very difficult because the enemy keeps pressing on them, they keep inspecting them, but again, they still have such an opportunity, and we continue helping them with this. So children keep studying, there are no significant changes, the teachers keep working, and within this summer, our task is to reinvigorate the children before the next curriculum year. So this is how we will be preparing for the curriculum year to come. Within the last year, we were able to provide tablets or computers to all of our kids, thanks to the support of our international partners and the Ministry of Education, and we will continue our movement in that direction. Thank you, dear friends. Do we have any more questions on the floor? Now that we have no more questions, thank you very much for this information that you've disclosed. I'm reminding you, joining us was Artem Lysohor, the military governor of Luhansk region, and our team is putting together the schedule for tomorrow, so keep track of our announcements. Bear with us, and glory to Ukraine.